Hey everybody, David Moffat from Annex Tabletop Gaming here, and today I'm going to finish painting off these Necrons from the Necron Warriors and Paint set. Gonna be a lot of fun. What I've already done is I've already airbrushed them with a primer, the Sinal-Res Gray, and then I airbrushed this Rune Lord Brass over top. Now when I transferred the Rune Lord Brass to this dropper bottle, I also added Pledge to the mix to give it a really nice glossy tone, which I think really helps the metal nice and lustrous and should help all the other colors slide around on it. So we're going to move on to the next step. Now looking at the guide, which I'll just pop up on screen, I think our next step should be what they suggest to be the Abaddon Black. But I don't think we should do just Abaddon Black. I think we should be brave. We should paint bravely. Great podcast, check it out. And we should mix the Abaddon Black with some Runefang Steel. Let's try a 1-to-1 ratio. Let's see how that looks. Let's give it a little mix. Let's see how it looks. I'm mixing it on my wet palette. It's a homemade wet palette. This is the one I made after watching Uncle Adam's video from Tabletop Minions. It's made out of a sandwich container, piece of parchment paper, and I use a sponge instead of paper towel. Because I find where I live, it just gets too dry otherwise. Alright, so basically that 1-to-1 ratio is made, what do they call it now? Not bolt gunmetal, lead belcher. There we go. It's basically made lead belcher. So everywhere where they painted black, I'm going to paint it with lead belcher. Our homemade mix out of these paints. And I'm not going to worry about complete coverage. It is a little thick. Let's thin it down a bit. There we go. Oh, now it's too thin. Let's see. There we go. So I'm not using the brush that's provided, because I think they're junk. I don't like them. I'm using a cheap natural hair brush instead. Got them from Amazon. I think it's like $18 for a pack of a bunch, but I really only ever use this size. Whatever size it is. It's been worn away because I've used it for so long. The size is gone, but the brush remains. If the color's a little thin and some of the Rune Lord Brass remains, that's fine. That's okay. It's not the only color we're going to put on there, so you don't have to worry about it. They leave these Rune Lord Brass on the image, so I will too. I will paint this guy. I think the tubes, maybe all the tubes, no, some of the tubes are black, like the ones I'm painting now, the ribbed ones. And the smooth tubes will get a hit of Runefang Steel and then Tesseract Glow, it looks like. I won't paint those ones, just these ones. These little ribbed guys, hiding in there. So you'll find the paint does kind of separate on the palette. It's not quite as nice as lead belcher that way. So I would advise using straight up lead belcher instead of just mixing it like I did. Unless all you want to do is paint only with the paints that are in this kit. And that's a perfectly valid life choice. Working with a limited palette can be quite handy. You can speed paint, I'd say, a little faster by limiting your options for the most part. There's lots of things to paint, but you don't have to get too fancy with it. Especially for the rank and file dudes. There we go. Now we're getting some coverage back. Oh, forgot his little knee here. That should probably be bright silver. Oh, the spine. Did I leave some in the back? I probably did. Paint this handle too. Can't forget that. Get in there. Get in there. Perfect. Alright, now I'm going to do the other two guys off camera. Alright, well, we've had a slight change of plan. I looked at the Games Workshop site for the regular Necron Warriors, and I did the turntable thing, and I discovered that not only is all this painted blackish silver, but also on the heels. This area here is also black, with just the green glow in here, rather than the artwork that they show there where the whole ensemble is green. And this was also painted with the silvery black. And the hips, I think that's it. And I also discovered I forgot to drill out my holes. So let's do that right now. Alright, I got a carbide tip, which I use as a guide to poke a little hole in the center. Probably there. And I got a bit pin vise, the drill bit, which I think will make a good size hole. Hopefully it's not too fat. Looked okay when I measured it up. Let's see what happens. Yeah, that looks nice to me. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and do the other two. So I had originally intended my next step to be the Runefang steel on the parts I was going to do the glow on. But since I know what I know now, I said I'll skip to the step that I wasn't going to do just yet. But should work out quite nicely. I'm going to make some Abaddon black with some Agrax Earthshade gloss. So what that's going to do is going to thin out the black and create more of a glaze. And we're going to put it on the parts that are supposed to be all black. So instead of having a pure black tone, they're going to have a bit of the metal underneath still, and a bit of the highlights. Now, if I was going to use colors outside of the set, I would just use black Templar contrast paint. That'd be way better, I think. Alright, let's try 1 drop black and 4 drops Agrax Earthshade gloss. Alright, so the parts that are going to be black is the gun handle, the gun body, and this little barrel-y thingy. Yes, the tubing will also need this applied, but the metal bar down here will stay the lead belcher-ish color, as well as the little spiky bits there. And let's see about the back spine. I think everything's going to stay this color too. Yeah, everything's going to stay this color. So mostly we're just concentrating on the gun, most of the gun body. Let's see how my theory works. Might be too thinned. Yeah, I'm going to add 1 more drop of Abaddon black. So it'll make it 1 part Abaddon black to 2 parts Agrax Earthshade. Let's see how this works. Alright, there we go. Hit puberty finally. I think that's a much more pleasing tone. This is the winner, I believe. There we go. 1 blackened gun. Now I'm going to do the other 2 guys off camera. Okay, now we'll take this Runefang steel and we're going to hit the points of the tubing and the parts that are going to glow with the Tesseract glow. Here, this guy's little face that's exposed. It's going to be glowing. A little tube down there. That's it. That's all. All right, so there's that guy. I'm just gonna go off camera and do the other 2. All right, next step, let's drown it in Agrax Earthshade gloss. All right, so I applied it everywhere except for the parts where we're going to put the Tesseract glow, just the shiny silver parts. Now I'm just going to go off camera and I'll do the rest. All right, now I'm going to paint the silvery bits with the Tesseract glow. Whew, Tesseract glow would be a color worth investing in a paint shaker for. It really likes to separate. Let's see though. Hopefully it's mixed up enough for our purposes. Oh, Vortex, how I need you. Alright, I'm just going to go off camera and finish off the other two. Alright, now I'm just going to let these fellows dry, and then I'm going to come in with some dry brushing. Alright, now that the wash is all dry, I'm going to dry brush a bit of the Rune Lord Brass back into the mix. Alright, now I'm going to go off camera and finish off the rest. And then next I'll need to take the mix of Abaddon Black and Runefang Steel, come back in a dry brush. I found the gloss Agrax Earthshade pooled a lot. Oh, there's another bit of pooling. I'm not certain if that's just one of its characteristics that you have to watch out for, or if I was just being very sloppy. Could be either. I also dry brushed a bit in here, just to start bringing it up to the tarnished silvery color that they seem to have. Oh, yeah, I gotta do the top of his head too. There we go. Alright, now I'm going to do the rest off camera. So next up, I'm going to come in with the Runefang Steel to give some edges some brighter highlights. And there's a little scarab on this rock that I missed, so I need to give him a little touch of Runefang Steel and then hit it with the Tesseract Glow. Okay, I'm going to go off camera and I'll do the rest. Alright, and that concludes the painting of the miniatures portion on this. Next we're going to move on to the basing. And all they give you is the Astrogranite. This is bigger than the one that comes in the kit. This is the previous Astrogranite I had, and I'm just going to use it. Because I don't want to open up a new one. I still got this guy to use up. I like to use a nice cheap stiff bristle brush. Smack it on. I'll use it to paint the rocks as well. Try not to get too much of the texture on. And if you get some texture on the feet, that's perfect. In fact, I'm even going to paint a little bit up here. There's no real defined areas in this between the plate and the silvery heel anyway, so I think that works out great. Dirty up the foot a little on the bottom. It trudges through whatever Astrogranite is. Alright, and I'm going to go off camera and finish off the rest. Well, now that I'm looking at it, maybe you get a little too much here, and that's okay. Just wet your brush, kind of thin it out, leave a little on. It's almost like a wash now. So now it's just going to have a stained surface. Show you's been walking through. Perfect, got it. Alright, now for the final step, things that we can do with this paint set, and that's rimming the base with some Abaddon Black, or Abaddon. What do you usually say? Abaddon or Abaddon? I've polled people, they're divisive, but I think GW usually says Abaddon. I think that's what they usually say. As always, I'll use my trusty chisel tip, which is perfect for rimming bases. So as I was waiting for the rim to dry, I started thinking about something else I could do. I could push it just a little bit farther, which I think I'll do in the next step. But for now, let's give it another pass of Abaddon Black, or Abaddon Black, just to give it a nice opaqueness on the rim. Okay, now that I have the second layer on here drying, I'm going to take some of this mix of Abaddon Black and the Agrax Earthshade gloss. I'm going to thin it out, just use it as a little wash on the base here. Bring in some texture. If we do it thin enough, it shouldn't be too overwhelming. It should help us add a little depth to this base. Well, there we go. That adds a little variance to the texture. So I think the last step I'll do is to dry brush a bit of the original texture paint on top. Just add a lighter layer. I'll just go ahead and I'll dry brush the rest off camera. And here we go. I don't think it added a ton to the basing, but add a small touch in any case. Just give a little bit more depth. overall, I think I've done what I can with the paint set that's provided. There's a few things I would definitely go outside of the paint set for, such as the Black Templar for the black. And I would get something for dry brushing on the base, something a little lighter. You're not really provided with any lighter colors that would work, unfortunately. And I'd probably go white instead of the bright silver for the parts that are going to glow. Because overall, the glow effect is good on silver. It's kind of nice on things like the tubing, but it doesn't have quite the same pop as it would over white. And that's it. Overall, I'm pretty happy with these guys. I'll definitely put them on the table as is, but I think I will add a bit more to the basing. And I will definitely be hitting them with a bit of a matte varnish to tone them down, because they're super shiny, and I could use them to be slightly less shiny. Alright, everyone, thanks for watching. Bye!